So here we are more or less starting with the kind of the basics and the fundamentals of using Revit structure software or Revit in general because we've got the structure, mechanical, and architectural and systems all built in here. So we'll just kind of start on that note. You'll notice that when you first fire up your Revit, you see what is called the recent files window, and it lists the recent projects and the recent families that you've been working on. With a single click on any one of these where the little hand shows up, you can open up one of those files. Now, if you're using central files and local files and work sets and work sharing, you should not open the file from here. You should go in here and hit open and then navigate to that central file and create a new local copy. But as long as you're just using a standalone file, you can click on these to instantly open them up. You'll also notice it's got some templates over here, and these are listed in our options. So if we go to our big purple R, which is the application pull down here on the bottom right, we can go into options. You can see that it has some settings, some general settings here about Revit, general information, user interface, graphics, file location, some rendering settings, spell checking, how that's set up, some steering wheel stuff, and view cube and macros. So this stuff up at the top here, these top four, are probably the ones that are probably the most important in the beginning. So general information, this is your username. So when you start to use work sets and central files, this is going to be the name that you're going to be used as far as the log goes and as far as listing you in the work sets dialog box. So there's a couple things in here. Notifications, synchronize with central again every 30 minutes, save reminder, so just some saving reminders, journal file cleanup information, work sharing update frequency is set to be 35 seconds or so, and this is just how often it kind of sends out a little radar signal to the central model to see if it's up to date or not up to date. So even though you're not updating your file, Revit is checking just to see if it is out of date a little bit. Default discipline, when you create a new view, you can pick on here to be a specific discipline. So when you say, create a new view, it's going to take on this discipline, and then you can change it after the fact. So there's some general information under our options. User interface, you can see up here it says architecture, structure, and that. If you turn systems on and system electrical, system mechanical, system piping, okay, that'll turn on all the tabs. Energy analysis, okay, that'll turn on more tabs up here. If you take these guys off, you'll see less tabs. Some of them are general and some of them are specific to here. Some of them you don't have a choice. You can't turn off the modify tab per se. You can't turn off the manage or the view or the collaborate. Site and massing you can, because that guy's right here. And then can we hit apply? Oh, there's no apply. So we'll see that take place. So under user interface, you can go with a dark or light theme as far as color coding. And interesting, that one actually changes on the fly. Do these change on the fly? No, they don't. Keyboard shortcuts, you can go in here. This is like an AutoCAD PGP file, and you can search for a command like door, and it's currently set to be DR. If you pick on here and you pick on there, you can either remove it or you can change it to a different character. So you can search for different tools in here, like roof, and it's going to say okay, there's different roof options. You can pick which one you want. Create roof, and that's set to be that. So there's some shortcut characters inside of here that you can assign. So these are your shortcut keys. Cancel out. And again, you can go to the CAD Clips webpage and do a search for shortcut, and we have specific, more in-depth lessons on that. So anytime you see a topic that we might skim over a little bit here, feel free to go back to the CAD Clips webpage and go to the Revit CAD Clips page, and on the left search, you can search for a keyword and list all different other CAD Clip videos there for you as well. So we definitely have one. Just either key in the word keyboard or shortcut, and there'll be videos on it. Some double click options, which is new. So when you double click an item, you can customize. So when you double click a family, it goes into the edit type. If you don't like that, you can pick on here and you can actually make it so that when you double click a family, it edits the family. It actually opens up the family editor, or it does nothing. So we have some options in here. Double clicking a sketched element like a floor, edge, or a stair or something will edit the element, edit the type, or do nothing. Again, it's all about double clicking families, sketched items, double clicking a view, double clicking an assembly, double clicking a group, double clicking a component stair. And again, you have these options. So these are just settings, more or less preferences that we have inside of here, user interface. Tooltip assistant is normal. You can say minimal or high, and it'll just give you more detail. When you hover over something, it'll give you a tooltip, and you can pick your different tooltips here. That kind of takes up a bit of space. Enable recent files page at startup, which is this page back in here. If you turn this off, then when you start Revit, you just won't see this. Okay, you can try that if you want. And then just some little behavioral stuff in here is after you clear a selection. So if you have stuff selecting and you just kind of clear it, what do you want as far as the project environment? Do you want to return to the previous tab up inside of here? These are called tabs. So that setting is just for the project environment. And then when you're in the family editor, what happens when you clear a selection? You have two choices on there. So project environment versus the family editing environment. Display the contextual tab on selection, which means that when you pick something, you're going to see a special tab come up over here. And I wouldn't recommend turning that one off. So that's a little bit about our user interface. Then we have graphics under here, under our options. Again, all I did was go in here and go big purple R and options. And let's go to graphics. So graphics mode, use hardware acceleration, use optimized view navigation. That's the one that makes it so when you spin stuff, it makes it kind of fainter, makes things go a little bit quicker when you have a big model when you're moving around. So it kind of ghosts it as you kind of pan and move, and then it refreshes when you stop moving. Anti-alias, I'm not exactly sure what that is, but it has to do with graphics, and sometimes it depends on your video card, and sometimes you just have to kind of play with these. This one's a bit different. This one is pretty straightforward, on or off. Color coding, when you select something, it turns blue. Pre-selection is also blue, and then alert stuff when there's a warning about something's not cleaning up or an edge not trimming or filleting, it'll turn orange, so alert. Invert will invert the background, so it'll go from a white background to a black background. So if you want it to look like kind of old AutoCAD style, you can do that. Semi-transparent, that is so that these colors are not completely opaque. They're just a bit transparent to just make it easier on the eye. Temporary dimension text size. So as you're drawing, you're going to see temporary dimensions. And if you're like me and your eyes aren't so good, you can always go in here and bump these numbers up a little bit so that when you see temporary dimensions, quite often they're kind of small and you can't zoom in on them. So it doesn't hurt to bump these numbers up a little bit. So when you see your temporary dimensions, they're nice and big. Background is transparent on your temporary dimension, so you can see through it, or you can say opaque. So just some graphic settings inside of here. Then we have our file locations, and this is where we would list our template files. You see here it says construction, architectural, structural, mechanical. That's these guys: construction, architectural, structural, mechanical. So these are what they are template files. I thought I could expand this. I can't. And I'll just pan this over, and then if you pick on here and you hit browse, it's going to show where that is located. So it's on the C, program data, Autodesk 2014 templates, US metric, and then inside of there it's using this construction default metric. I'd stay away from the Canada stuff. I don't recommend using the Canada label stuff. Even if using metric, use the US metric. So what we do is we have some predetermined titles, which is this. This is the name over here. And then this is the template file it uses. So if you just click on here, what it does is it starts a new project based on this guy and based on this template file. Notice the tooltip at the end, it's a .rte file. So template files. So that starts out with a structural environment, an architectural environment, a mechanical environment, and a construction environment. So you can preset these template files right here. This is how you do it. And all you do is you hit add, and then you go and pick another file off of here, plumbing metric, hit open, and then I can pick on here and just change this to just say plumbing metric. I don't need the word default. And then a space, and then click out. And then when I finish, that may or may not show up. I don't know how many you can actually put in here. And then you can move it up or move it down on the list. So plus adds one, minus will remove it from here. Okay, so file locations, default path for user files. This is where when you create local files from a central file using work sets type of thing, if you don't specify otherwise, this is the location where your local files are going to be, and you can browse and you can change that. Default path for family template files. When I say new family, this is the place where it's going to go to look for template files. If you don't like it, you can hit browse and change it to a network driver anywhere you want. Okay, root path for point clouds. If you're going to be using point clouds, it prefers to have a folder called point clouds under my documents. There's one already there. If not, again, you can browse inside of here. Places is where you can add some favorites. So you can go into places and you can say add, and if you have a certain project, you can, call this project, 1. And then I can pick on here and browse, and then I can go browse to a folder somewhere. And then hit OK and open it. Just the folder, that's all. And then that will show up in my list. When I say open, it's going to show up as a favorite. And then if I hit OK, so under places are like your favorites. Metric library will see these guys show up. So this is under file locations. Some stuff in there. I'm not going to go through all of this other stuff inside of here. This is kind of the main stuff. So I'm going to hit OK, and then we're out. So that's really the recent files folder here. And look, there's our plumbing metric, which is squeezed inside of there. So if I was to pick on there, it would start up with a template file. In fact, I didn't follow through on that, but we would have selected an actual RTE template file. In fact, I think we did set that. Yeah, there it is, plumbing default. So if I was to pick on here now, it's going to start up Revit, and it's going to use that plumbing default, and I'll notice that, this is kind of set up for plumbing. If I pick on my big blue R and hit close, this closes that file. It doesn't close Revit, it just closes that file. If I pick on here and pick structural template, starts up a new project using that structural template that's specified, and this one is set up to be structural. Big application pull down, hit close, we're back into here. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about getting started with our recent files. We're going to talk more about these tabs and the ribbon and stuff, but just getting started with the options dialog box and some of the main features that we see inside of there.